Spine-chilling tales, 13 sinister internet stories revealed from the haunted depths below. Emily stared at her screen, fingers trembling as she read the latest post on the forum. Disappearance in Maplewood, it said, detailing the quiet suburb she called home. A chill crawled up her spine. Reports swirled of shadowy figures lurking at twilight, creeping into the edges of children's dreams like nightmares that spilled into the waking world. Her heart raced. Were these tales real? She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see something move behind her in the dim light of her cluttered living room. Her 10-year-old son, Alex, was tucked away in his room, probably conjuring up ghosts from his vivid imagination. But even his drawings were haunting, sketches of creatures with hollow eyes that watched from the darkness. She had swept away those pieces of paper, only to find them reappearing, one under the couch, another in the kitchen, always looping back to the same sinister theme. What had started as playful scribbles had twisted into something dark and menacing, and Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. With every shift she worked at the diner, fatigue settled like a fog in her bones. The regulars would chatter about their daily lives, oblivious. No one seemed to realize that families were disappearing, one by one. Emily tried to raise her concerns, but every inquiry was met with dismissive laughs or eye rolls, as if she were the paranoid one. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weight of the silence wrapped around her like a shroud. The neighbors were pretending, she realized, selling the myth of a perfect town while hidden dangers lurked in their backyards. The eyes of the community felt like shadows hanging over her kids, and with every creak of the floorboards and rustle of leaves outside, her paranoia climbed. Then, the worst happened. A night shift ended, and she returned home to find Alex's room in chaos. Toys scattered, clothes thrown about like a silent scream for help. Panic surged through her, driving her to his bed where a single note lay, a frayed piece of paper with the words scrawled hastily, "The shadows come for those who wander." Emily's breath quickened, fear twisting her stomach. She paced the house, thinking of the friendly neighbor who had always seemed too good to be true. Was he really a helping hand, or could he be hiding something horrific? Gripping the note tightly, a chilling realization set in. She had to confront the truth, not just about her son's disappearance, but about the true nature of her suburban hell. Fear wrapped around her heart like a vice, the horror of her situation hit her like a brick wall. What awaited her outside was no longer a pleasant neighborhood walk, it could be the unveiling of unspeakable terrors right around the corner. She felt cold sweat on her brow, body trembling as she stood frozen, knowing she had to find Alex before the shadows claimed him too. The hunt for her son would lead her deep into the darkness surrounding Maplewood, where the sinister secrets lay, and she was running out of time. Emily stepped outside, the chill of night sinking deep into her skin. The moon hung low, a ghostly orb glimmering between scudding clouds, casting an eerie glow over the quiet street. Her heart pounded like a drum, thumping in time with her hurried footsteps. Each creak of the gravel underfoot sounded like a warning, ricocheting unsettled feelings in her chest. This wasn't just her nightly ritual, she was hunting for her son. The neighbors' houses stood like silent sentinels, their windows dark, shades pulled tight. Were they all asleep, or were their watchful eyes deliberately keeping secrets tucked away? Emily fought the impulse to look back, fearing that if she did, she might glimpse a shadow darting away from the corner of her vision. She recalled Alex's drawings, each one more grotesque than the last. They had not been mere children's whims, they were warnings. Lines of fear etched into a child's imagination, now haunting her every thought. The shadows come for those who wander, echoed in her mind. She shuddered, praying this wasn't a prophecy for her boy. As she rounded the corner, a flicker of movement caught her eye, a figure in the distance, half hidden behind a tree. Emily's instincts screamed at her to turn and run, but she felt an inexplicable pull toward the shadow. Quietly, she approached, the air growing heavier with a sense of foreboding. With each step, panic spiked, urging her to reconsider. "Alex!" she whispered, hoping it was him, that maybe he was just playing a game of hide-and-seek. But no response came. The figure only shifted slightly, and Emily's breath caught. With resolve, she edged closer until the faint outline of the person became visible. It was a woman, skin pale and glistening in the moonlight. Her hair hung like tendrils of smoke, and as she turned her head, Emily saw eyes that weren't just hollow, they were voids of darkness, swirling with something sinister. "What do you want?" Emily felt the words slip out against her better judgment. The woman smiled, a slow, curling motion that cracked the air with menace. "Looking for something?" Her voice dripped with a haunting eeriness. Emily felt the shadows coalescing around her. "My son, have you seen him?" The woman tilted her head, the darkness beckoning at her edges like a hungry beast. "He wanders just like all the others." Chills raced down Emily's spine. "What do you mean? Who are you?" The figure let out a high, tinkling laugh as she gestured toward the shadows behind her. "They come for those who wander. You'll see soon enough." Before Emily could react, the woman darted into the darkness, rapidly vanishing from view. The instant stillness enveloped her, suffocating her courage. She turned to run, heart pounding furiously, but a whisper echoed behind her, pulling her attention back, a soft child's voice calling her name. "Mom?" Emily whipped around, eyes scanning the growing shadows, desperation clawing at her throat. "Alex! Where are you?" The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, swirling in the air, entwining with her very breath. She took a step forward, fear swelling in her chest. Could that really have been him calling out? Or was it just another trick of the shadows? With every passing second, she knew she had to make a choice, to retreat back into the kitchen light she had come from, safe but empty, or plunge deeper into the blackened unknown where the threats lurked. As chilling gusts of wind passed through the trees, an ominous whisper slipped into her ear, promising answers and perhaps more darkness. But as she took a step deeper into the dreadful night, she had no idea how far the shadows would lead her or what she might find in the depths of Maplewood's terror. The darkness around Emily thickened, almost tangible, pressing against her skin like a heavy blanket. The wind howled through the branches, carrying that voice again, echoing, repeating, teasing her sanity. "Mom?" It was unmistakably Alex. "Alex! Where are you?" Her voice trembled, barely rising above the oppressive night. She started forward, uncertainty clawing at her as she stepped deeper into the shadows. Each flicker of moonlight seemed to reveal more darkness, more mystery, making her heart race faster. "Mom!" The plea was clearer, resonant with fear. It felt so close, but where was he? She squinted into the shadowy depths, searching desperately for any sign of her son. Panic surged through her, her feet moved faster, instinctively carrying her toward the sound. The trees loomed overhead, gnarled and twisted, their branches arching like skeletal hands ready to snatch her back into the gloom. She reached a clearing where the moonlight pooled, chasing away some of the darkness but not all. The air grew colder here, biting through her jacket, as if urging her to leave. "Alex!" She called again, her voice cracking. In response, a shape darted past the edges of the light. Emily froze. Had she seen a glimpse of him? Or was it just a trick of the darkness? Her heartbeat thundered in her ears as she stepped closer to the edge, where the light met the abyss, where hope and hopelessness waged war inside her. "Mom, come play," said the voice, lilting and innocent, but there was something deep in its cadence that felt eerily wrong. "Play? Alex, that's not funny. Where are you?" She felt a wave of nausea spiral in her gut. "Mom, they want you to come with me." The tone was almost sweet, but wrapped within it was an unsettling twist. The shadows shifted around her, growing restless, thickening like a shroud. Clenching her fists, Emily stepped forward again, willing herself to see through the darkness. Each whisper of wind seemed to form words, messages warning her to turn back. She can't. She wouldn't. Alex needed her. Then, something shattered the stillness, a rustling sound came from the trees behind her. Instantly, her instincts screamed for her to look back. But instead, she fought the urge, forcing herself to focus on the haunting call of her son. "Mom! They're coming!" Panic struck like a jolt of electricity. The words rang in her head as the temperature sank. She turned her gaze back to where the voice had come from. Her heart dropped into her stomach. A group, shadowy and indistinct, emerged from the dark, their movements fluid and unnatural. Emily's breath hitched as they drew closer. "Don't be scared, join us," their voices intertwined, mocking her, beckoning her forward. And at their center, she saw a familiar figure behind the shadowy mass, a small boy with tousled hair and wide eyes, staring at her with an emotion she couldn't quite grasp. "Alex!" Fear mingled with relief. She rushed toward him, breaking into a sprint, arms outstretched, only to have the darkness shift, swallowing him again as if he had never been there. "No, no!" She felt her mind fracturing, each breath becoming a desperate gasp. Shadows flickered around her like memories she could no longer hold on to. "Come, Emily. It's your turn to wander." The voices swirled, intoxicating and overwhelming, and she stumbled backward, caught in the web of fear. She could no longer hear Alex's cries, only the haunting promise of those lurking shadows. With terror quickening her steps, Emily turned, ready to sprint back, but the world behind her was gone. The trees closed in, and the shadows thickened, dancing before her, warping her path. Now, she had to find a way out before they claimed her too. What if the shadows had already taken Alex? Or worse yet, what if they were waiting for her to join them willingly? The thought sank into her gut like a stone, anchoring her in dread. But what she didn't know was that some paths are impossible to walk back from. Emily stumbled, gasping for air as she turned, a frantic dancer caught in a surreal nightmare. It was dark, too dark, and the shadows seemed alive, pulsating with malevolence. Her instincts screamed for her to break free, to run away, but where could she go? The world she once knew had morphed into a twisted labyrinth, and the air was thick with whispers that pushed against her ears, taunting her. "Join us!" The voices coiled around her like serpents. They were everywhere, filling her mind with a haunting melody that lured her deeper into their trap. She fought the incessant pull, forcing herself to remember Alex. Where was he? What had they done to him? "Alex!" She called again, her voice raw, tearing through the veil of darkness. Each syllable felt like a stone cast into a bottomless well. Then, the familiar sound of light laughter echoed back towards her, a sound so innocent and pure, yet it twisted her stomach with dread. "Hurry, Mom! We're waiting!" A sickening dread filled her gut. She knew that laughter. It should have brought her comfort, but now it chilled her to the bone. Alex was close yet so very far. The shadows writhed and contorted, drawing nearer, hungry for her despair. She swung around, desperate to escape their grasp. With each frantic step, she felt the unmistakable weight of someone following her. The rustle of twigs snapped like gunshots behind her, sending her heart racing. She glanced over her shoulder. Nothing, just a wall of darkness that held the secrets of the night. But she could feel them there, lurking, waiting for her to tire, to falter. "Mom, Mom!" The voice drowned out the whispers, urging her to break through the fog of fear. A flicker of light cut through the oppressive shadows, a small beacon through the chaos. The urge to reach it filled her with renewed determination. She sprinted toward it, praying it was real, praying it wouldn't fade like so many other hopes. As she neared, the light twisted, becoming a flash of silver. Alex's favorite toy, his little action figure, half buried beneath a layer of burnt leaves. It was wrong. It felt wrong. "No," she whispered, dread creeping into her bones. "Not like this." Suddenly, there came a rush of cold wind, pushing her back as if to warn her away. The shadows groaned, tightening around her, snapping like jaws ready to devour. She snatched the figure, but, as she did, the voice returned, more guttural now, more urgent. "They want to play forever." Instinct kicked in. She had to escape. She had to find her son, wherever he was. With the toy clutched tightly, she scanned her surroundings, searching for any sign of a way out. With measured breaths, she took off again, weaving through the trees, the starlit sky above growing dimmer as the branches closed in. The chilling laughter echoed in her ears, growing louder, enveloping her. But she couldn't be lost, not now, not when Alex's laughter called her back. Then, out of nowhere, a figure stepped between the trees ahead of her, blocking her path. It was Alex. Or was it? His eyes glimmered, but they held darkness deeper than any night. "Mom, you found me!" "Alex!" Relief washed over her, but it was quickly replaced by an icy fear. Something wasn't right. He looked different. "Come here!" she shouted, desperate to close the distance. But he just stood there, ungodly still. "You need to stay a while, they want you to meet everyone." The sinister quality of his words sunk into her chest like a knife. "No, Alex. Come with me." The shadows flared, hungry and restless, and Emily's heart pounded wildly. She could feel the ground rumble beneath her feet as whispers intensified, intertwining with promises she couldn't bear to hear. "Mom, it's safe here. They like you." With a scream caught in her throat, she forced her legs to move, pulling herself away from the horrifying imitation of her son. If she didn't run, she would be swallowed whole. She tore past him, not looking back, sprinting through the eerie darkness until she could feel her legs screaming in protest. The shadows hissed, chasing her, determined to ensnare her like they had done to Alex. But she couldn't let the darkness win. She refused to be one of them. Just as she thought she might escape, she crashed into a wall, thorns and briars, curling and sharp, blocking her route. There was no way out. The whispers circled around her, their voices a cacophony of madness, drawing her closer to the inevitable. A final call rang out. "Mom! You'll love playing with us." Emily's breath hitched as she realized with horror that joining them was no longer just a possibility, it was becoming a choice. But what was waiting in the shadows behind her? Beneath her trembling hands, the thorns scratched, urging her to decide, to choose quickly. The shadows encircled her, ready to strike. Next chapter, the truth would unearth secrets buried deeper than fear itself. Where would it lead her? Would there be an escape, or was she now part of the very darkness she feared? The thorns pulled at her skin, slicing her palms, but the pain was overshadowed by the darkness closing in. She could feel it, a cold breath brushing against the back of her neck, relentless and hungry. Desperation clawed at her throat as the laughter echoed again. It was relentless, wrapping around her, dragging her towards something she feared to find. "Choose, Mommy." The whisper oozed with anticipation. "Join us, and you'll never be alone." Emily's heart lurched. She wanted to scream, but the sound got tangled in her throat. All she could muster was a breathless whimper, her eyes darting between the grotesque shadows and the dark figure of Alex. It felt as if the very essence of hope was being siphoned from her, leaving only dread behind. She stumbled backward against the briars, her mind racing. They couldn't be pinned to mere shadows. They were something more. Twisted reflections of lost souls, echoing her heart's deepest fears. What was this place? And why did it yearn for her? "Mom!" His voice was sharp, an edge of steel cutting through the suffocating fog. "Please, stop. They only want to play." The image of Alex warped with every word. He was close yet stretched into something grotesque, a puppet in the grip of unseen forces. Each syllable felt like an incantation drawing her closer to an undeniable fate. She gritted her teeth. "No. I want leave you." But the shadows surged with renewed ferocity, pulling at her, scratching her resolve. "Then you can stay," they hissed, their voices swelling like waves crashing against the shore. "You can play with us, forever." Emily's pulse raced as the laughter turned manic, a cacophony of taunting echoes that rifled through her thoughts like wild animals stuck in a trap. Darkness swept over her vision, shimmering with sinister delight, coaxing her to succumb. She clutched the toy, the little action figure now warm and alive in her fingers. It was a reminder of Alex at his most innocent. "No!" Her voice spilled out, hoarse and defiant. "I'll find you. I will free you." Gathering every ounce of strength, Emily turned her path unseen, hope a stubborn ember in the heavy air. She lunged, shoving through the thorns, tearing her flesh, and with each inch forward, the whispers dimmed to furious murmurs. Behind her, the shadows recoiled, twisting in frustration. Emily could feel their wrath like a storm gathering speed. But she pressed on, her heart racing for a glimpse of light above, a horizon undimmed by the weight of despair. Yet, as she stumbled from the thicket, she was met with an expansive distorted reality, a landscape that shouldn't exist. Twisted trees loomed, their branches clawing at her with skeletal fingers, and a moon that shimmered not with silver light, but with an oppressive crimson glow. The laughter returned, echoing across the night, reverberating off the warped forms that danced at the edges of her vision. "We're still here," they sang, their chorus relentless. "You can't escape us, Emily, you belong to the night." Panic surged through her veins as she ran, the landscape closing in, every shadow a threat, every whisper a reminder of her failure. Where was Alex? Then she saw it, a flicker of light, sharp and glaring just ahead. A brief respite, a moment of sanctuary? Only one way to find out. But as she lunged towards it, something caught her foot. She fell hard, face to face with the ground. It trembled beneath her. The roots twisted and crawled, almost alive, dragging her backward. Dark tendrils slithered around her wrists, pulling her down. No! She screamed, but it was swallowed up by the night. The last thing she saw was that flicker. It wasn't just a light. No, something was there. Something inhuman, gnashing its teeth, grinning wide with a hunger only the truly damned could know. The moment before the darkness engulfed her, a revelation struck, seizing her heart. Alex wasn't lost, he was here. In that instant of clarity, the dread morphed into fury. Emily knew she would either fight, or she would perish lost to this twisted nightmare forever. And then everything faded, leaving only the echo of her breathing in a stifling silence. What would she have to confront to rescue her son? As the shadows wrapped her tight, a terrible truth loomed, waiting just beneath the surface of fear. Some truths were worse than the darkness itself. Emily thrashed in the darkness, her senses barely grasping reality. Panic flooded her as the tendrils tightened around her wrists, dragging her deeper into the ground. Each heartbeat was a war drum, echoing the urgency of her race against despair. She felt the roots weave into her flesh, a sickening connection, their very essence merging with hers, feeding off her fear. "Let go!" She gasped, but the words felt fragile, like glass shattering against stone. She tugged violently, but the more she fought, the more they held her firm. The laughter grew louder, swirling around her like a malevolent wind. Its sound was no longer just a childlike mimicry, it was complex, layered with sorrow, anger, and insatiable hunger. Fury ignited within her as she realized the shadows weren't just playing, they were serious. They desired her submission, her surrender to the darkness that cradled every secret fear she'd ever buried. "No!" she roared, a sound ripped from her core. "I will not be yours." In an unexpected burst of strength, Emily lunged forward, her body jolting as she freed her arm from one of the roots just enough to gain momentum. She rolled, feeling the cold ground scratch against her skin, but the adrenaline overshadowed the pain. The flickering light still beckoned, but now it was accompanied by a voice, Alex's voice. "Mom! Over here!" She scrambled towards him, clawing at the dirt, shadows clawing back, desperate to reclaim their prize. The absurdity of her situation crashed over her like a wave. Her son was lost in this hell, yet he guided her with hope. "Keep talking, Alex!" she yelled, forcing the words out through clenched teeth. "I'm coming. Mom! Please!" His voice echoed, strained and distant. "You have to hurry." It was more than a plea, it was a lifeline in the engulfing chaos. Thorns snagged her hair, blinding her momentarily as she pulled free with a furious yank. Every inch forward felt like a battle against a current determined to drag her under. But the laughter it transformed, morphing into something sharp, cutting like ice against the fiery determination that now filled her veins. The twisted trees surrounded her, their branches twisting like dark fingers, as if trying to enclose her in a vice grip. The crimson moon shone overhead, illuminating the not quite familiar path ahead. Emily's heart hammered against her ribs, each pump urging her on, more frantic than before. Then, through the haze, she caught a glimpse of it, a shadow lurking just beyond the light. As she approached, the flicker revealed itself, not a warm sanctuary after all, but a gateway into something darker. It rippled like water, reflecting the horrors lurking beneath. "Emily," the shadows whispered, almost lovingly. "Don't turn back." She hesitated, the whisper wrapping around her mind like smoke. Terrifying images of what lay beyond clawed at her thoughts. Alex lost forever, consumed by the darkness. No! She spat, shaking her head to clear the visions. The darkness may whisper sweet nothings, but deep inside, she felt the truth stirring. The truth tasted of ash and regret. Alex! She shouted, pushing closer to the light. I won't let you go. With renewed resolve, she lunged again, ready to face whatever awaited on the other side. As she dove toward the pulsing light, the shadows lunged, howling with rage. Tendrils shot at her, slashing through the air, missing her by inches. But she felt their presence, as unnerving as a spider's leg brushing against the skin. And then she was through. Emily tumbled into a world that was both familiar and grotesque. It was a reflection of her own life warped into something sinister. Shadows coiled around her as a dark mist swirled, masking Alex's figure just out of reach. But the moment she rose, a breath caught in her throat. A man was standing before her, tall and shrouded in darkness, his face obscured. Why are you here? He asked, his voice calm, but it radiated a cold authority that chilled her bones. I'm looking for my son, she demanded, desperation fueling her words. Then you are too late, he replied, an unsettling smile spreading beneath the obscuring shadows. And the price is steep for seeking the lost. Emily's chest tightened. In that moment, fear morphed into terror. What do you want from me? Before he could answer, the laughter returned, echoing around her, mocking her every effort. What had she unleashed? What darkness had she just stepped into? All the answers come with a cost, he said, his voice smooth as silk. And in that impossibly tense moment, Emily understood. Discovering the truth about Alex meant confronting the deepest horrors hidden in her heart. But what would she sacrifice to save him? The shadows pulsed around Emily, their twisted forms writhing as if alive. The man before her remained an enigma, his voice curling through the air like smoke. What do the lost mean to you, Emily? He asked, each word deliberate, heavy with dark promise. My son is everything, she shouted, each syllable cutting through the darkness that nearly suffocated her. She took a step forward, her heart wild in her chest like a trapped bird. Whatever you want, just tell me. The man leaned closer, the shadows shifting and writhing around his figure, giving glimpses of ice-blue eyes that cut into her like shards of glass. The truth comes at a price. Would you trade your own past for his future? Every instinct screamed at her to abandon this twisted bargain, yet desperation clawed at her throat. What do you mean? Everything you've buried, every regret, every moment of weakness, you will have to face them, he replied, his smile widening, revealing teeth that glistened like bone under the blood-red moon. They will come for you, one by one. Surrender to the darkness, and I will return him to you. The laughter echoed again, chilling and taunting, wrapping around her like the roots had. Emily felt the weight of her past bearing down on her, a flood of memories rising up, sharp and savage. She could feel their essence, the guilt, the fear, the failures. They surged like a tidal wave ready to drown her. No! She cried out, determination boiling in her veins. I'll face my past, but I won't give up who I am. The figure recoiled, momentarily surprised. Shadows flickered and flared, becoming more aggressive as if testing her resolve. Very well, he whispered, his tone now dripping with dark glee. You choose your fate. But know this, once you confront them, there may be no turning back. Without warning, the shadows curled around her, the man fading into obscurity. Then the laughter morphed, transforming into voices that resonated with haunting familiarity. Emily, a whisper filled the air. You left us behind. The shapes began to materialize, lost faces from her past emerging from the gloom. Friends, family, and dreams long forsaken drifted toward her, their faces twisted with anguish. The air thickened with memories she thought she had buried safely, their whispers oozing despair. Why did you abandon us? They surrounded her, pressing in, closer and closer, their accusations crackling like electricity in her mind. We waited for you. Stop. I didn't abandon you, she shouted, her voice breaking. Panic surged as she realized the shadows weren't just remnants of the past, they were manifestations of her own guilt and fear, bred from decisions made in the dark recesses of her heart. She staggered back, gasping for air as she felt their icy breath against her skin, their outstretched hands clawing at her soul. "Let go of me!" she demanded, fury igniting within her again. "I didn't come this far to lose myself." "Face what you have done, Emily," a shadow hissed, its grasp tightening around her wrist. "Only then will you find your son." She braced herself, ready to confront her demons. The suffocating pain of memories rushed back, moments of neglect, choices that spiraled out of control, the moments she could have chosen different paths. As the darkness pressed on, Emily steeled herself, focusing on the flickering memory of Alex's face. "I will save you," she promised into the void. "No matter what it takes." But even as she spoke, she felt the weight of the shadows closing in, ready to strip her bare. Every heartbeat thrummed with fear as she realized, to confront them was to open every wound, to let the blood of her past flow freely. But without sacrifice, would she ever find Alex again? The shadows took a collective breath, poised to strike, ready to consume her whole. And in that chilling moment, she wondered if she could withstand the haunting truths yet to come. Emily felt her heart drop as the shadows surged forward, a dark wave ready to swallow her whole. Fear gripped her like a vice, yet the memory of Alex burned bright in her mind. She couldn't fail him. "Come on then!" she shouted into the abyss, her voice stronger than she felt. "Show me what you've got." The shadows froze, a moment of confusion, then erupted, filling the air with anguished screams and whispers that sliced through her. They were angry, resentful. Faces changed, memories morphed. Her high school friends morphed into that first boyfriend she'd left behind, a ghost of her carefree past, eyes dark and haunting. "Do you remember me?" he asked, his voice echoing like thunder. "You forgot me when you became this thing." "No," she protested, a tremor quaking her words. "You're not real. I've moved on." But as she turned her head, the shadow shifted, forming the figure of her mother, face twisted in perpetual sorrow. "You think forgetting is moving on? You've abandoned a part of yourself, Emily." Her breathing quickened. She had buried the pain. But now, it clawed its way back to the surface, demanding to be acknowledged. "This isn't real," she shouted, hands shaking, chest tight. "What if we show you what you truly are?" The shadows swirled around her, surrounding her in a vortex of darkness. Their faces became a blur, morphing into every mistake she ever made, every moment she chose selfishness over family. "Stop it!" she screamed, but they pressed on, a cacophony of despair rose within her, every voice uniting in deafening crescendo. "You think you can outrun your past?" they taunted, their words clawing at her sanity. "Think again." Emily knelt, clutching her head, as the haunting flood of memories overpowered her. She saw every tiny regret flash around her like a hellish slideshow, a car accident she witnessed but didn't intervene, a friend she chose to ignore in need, every time she turned away instead of lending a hand. "This isn't who I am anymore." But the shadows laughed, a mocking symphony that echoed in her ears. "You can't escape the truth. You must reckon with us if you wish to save him." Desperation roared within her. "If Alex is out there, I will fight through you." With every ounce of strength, she pushed back, willing her voice to break the darkness. "I will not let you drown me in despair." The shadows hesitated. For a fleeting moment, the grip around her slackened, and she dared to rise, heart racing. Renewed resolve coursed through her veins, she took a step forward, her eyes locked on the swirling mass of guilt and pain. "Show me the truth," she demanded, fear lacing her words. "Lay it bare so that I can fight." The air shifted, tension coiling tighter, as if the shadows were weighing her demand. The cacophony faded momentarily, leaving a heavy silence. Something shifted in their mass, fingers of darkness reached out, brushing her face with icy coldness. In that instant, she glimpsed the flickering ember of hope, a fleeting image of Alex's smile amidst the chaos. It sparked within her a reckless courage. "You think this will break me?" she sneered, defiance overtaking her. "You have unleashed me." Suddenly, shadowy hands clawed at her again, justice and pain mingling relentlessly. She felt their grasp hardening, threatening to fracture her will. Could she actually fight them? As they surged towards her, a raw terror clawed at her insides. Would her past truly consume her whole? Would they drag her into eternal darkness? Before she could gather her strength, the shadows lunged. "Face us," they hissed, "or remain lost." A chilling whisper slithered into her ears, "Find your son before it's too late," and with that, the darkness constricted around her, drawing her deeper into a void from which she feared there may be no return. Would she rise stronger, or be engulfed forever? Time was of the essence, and every second brought her closer to an unseen enemy. She believed she'd made her choice, yet faced with the growing darkness, she couldn't shake the feeling, has she just opened a door she wouldn't be able to close? Emily felt the cold press of the shadows enveloping her, devouring her resolve. They wrapped around her throat, squeezing tighter as she gasped for breath. Images flooded her mind again, each regret a dagger, each mistake an anchor, pulling her down into the abyss. "Fight!" she shouted at herself, her voice but a whisper lost in the chaos. "You have to fight!" The shadows hissed, mirroring her despair. They twisted into more familiar forms, a neighbor who had died too young, a partner who walked away after years, all demanding her attention, dragging her back into memories she wished to forget. "You think you can just leave us behind?" The whimpering echoes crooned, their voices intertwining, a haunting lullaby that seeped into her bones. "We are you." "No. You are not," she screamed, pushing against the darkness. "You do not control me." But with every word, the shadows grew stronger, pulling on her doubts, her fears. Each face morphed into something grotesque, distorting her reflection of self-worth. "You have always been weak, Emily. Every decision you made has led you to this moment. Where is your son now?" They morphed again, and she could feel their teeth sinking into her past, ripping it wide open. "Alex, I have to find him." The thought propelled her, igniting something deep within. In that small moment of clarity, she instinctively reached for the flickering warmth that was Alex's memory, grasping for it like a lifebuoy in a stormy sea. He was lost, but not forgotten. "I'm coming for you," she cried into the undulating mass of shadows, her defiance igniting a spark of resistance. The darkness flared, recoiling slightly. "You think memories alone can save you?" they hissed, laughter mingling with the dread hanging thick in the air. "What if you never get to him in time?" Each passing moment felt like an eternity. Emily could feel the shadows seeping into her skin, icy fingers dancing over her heart. Panic surged again. Was it truly hopeless? A frigid breath danced around her neck, whispering sweet promises of despair that would sink her deeper. "Look inside," they taunted. "Look at what you have become." She clutched her head, feeling the grip of past failures tightening like a noose. But then, a flicker in the dark. There it was, the image of Alex, his laughter ringing clear. Emily channeled all that love, all that hope, ready to let it shatter the cold barrier surrounding her. "Enough!" she shouted, thrusting her hands outwards. "I will not be defined by you anymore." The shadows recoiled as waves of searing light erupted from her chest, tearing through the dark like a blade. Raw energy surged, lifting her from the oppressive grip. Faces screamed as the radiance burned through their eternal prison, casting them back into the pit whence they came. But still, the dark was vast. Even as she surged forward, echoes of doubt and regret lingered, clawing at her heels. "Emily," they hissed, "you cannot escape." Fueled by adrenaline, she bolted deeper into the unyielding darkness, where she hoped to find the exit, where she needed to find Alex. Each flicker of light reminded her why she fought, yet the chilling echo behind her grew ever closer. And then she heard it, a low rumble in the darkness, a deep growl that sent shivers dancing up her spine. "You may have escaped for now," she turned, heart racing. Something else was there, something far more sinister than the shadows, the true source of her nightmares. Panic surged as she stumbled backward. What had she awakened? What waited for her in the dark? Time was racing away, but the shadows were relentless. Only one question pulsed in her mind: had she truly become stronger, or had she merely awoken something far worse? Emily blinked against the shadows, her heart hammering in her chest. They were swirling around her, flickering like flames, igniting her fears and regrets and twisting them into shapes all too familiar, but she wouldn't let them win. She took a deep breath, grounding herself, gripping the action figure tightly in her hand. It was not just a toy, it was a symbol of hope, of Alex, of love that could pierce the darkness. "Let him go!" she shouted, her voice breaking through the oppressive darkness. The shadows hesitated, their swirling forms momentarily still as if stunned by her raw determination. It was just enough of a pause for her to feel the flicker of hope catching fire in her chest. She charged forward, pushing through the viscous darkness, focusing on the echo of Alex's laughter that filtered through the chaos. "I'm coming for you, Alex!" she yelled, channeling every ounce of fear into unwavering resolve. The weight of her past loomed, but she knew now that she would not cower before it. As she sprinted deeper into the shadowed folds, she could hear the low growl intensifying a rumble of something far more critical than she'd faced yet. "You are not ready," it whispered, a voice rippling through the vast darkness. "You think you can save him? You cannot even save yourself." Shoving her doubts away, she kept running, the flicker of light in the distance growing brighter. Shadows grasped at her heels, their icy fingers wrapping tighter, but she felt the warmth of determination spread through her veins. "You have no power over me," she screamed into the void, certainty igniting a kind of fire that banished the chill gripping her heart. And as she neared the light, outlines of figures began to emerge, specters of bygone memories, people she loved but had lost touch with over the years. Their eyes were filled with sorrow, but she pushed through them, her focus only on Alex. "I won't let you take him," she cried, and in that moment, something within her broke free. The force of her resolve spilled over, crashing like waves against the shadows. They shrieked, contorting and twisting as if in pain, retreating from the brightness of her spirit. Each step she took expelled the darkness, pushing her closer to the light that formed a doorway, shimmering like hope on the horizon. "Mom!" Alex's voice cut through the chaos like a siren, and she felt each word pull her forward. "Hurry!" Sweat dripped from her brow as she made one last frantic push toward the light. As she crossed the threshold, the darkness recoiled violently, hissing and writhing, but it couldn't hold her back. Suddenly, she burst into a world that was strangely vibrant, her haven alive with color and love. Alex stood there, surrounded by an aura of light, his face twisted with concern but also joy. "Mom!" With a rush of wind, the shadows melted behind her, shrieking in agony, disintegrating into the air as she stepped forward, arms wide. She gathered Alex into a fierce embrace, heart overflowing with the warmth of him, reminding her that against the darkness, the light would always endure. "Are you okay?" she whispered, pulling back to look at his face, searching for any signs of what he had suffered. But he beamed up at her with the pure innocence she had fought so desperately to protect. "I'm okay, Mom. I knew you'd come for me." His words melted her worries away, and she felt a surge of joy sweep over her. They stepped back from the threshold, leaving the threat of darkness behind them. It shrieked, fading into obscurity as if knowing it had lost to the power of a mother's love. She felt lightness fill her chest in a way she hadn't realized she was missing, a release from the weight of fear, guilt, and shadows that had clung so tightly. Hand in hand, they walked down the path, the vibrant sun warming their faces. The logical certainty that they were safe enveloped them, but she knew their new beginning would require work. Healing would take time, but they had each other and they would rebuild together. Emily turned to Alex. "Let us make a promise. No more hiding from the past. We confront our fears together and keep our light alive, okay?" He nodded, eyes bright. "Together." In that moment, they stepped forward into the morning light, ready to chase away the lingering shadows of the night, leaving Maplewood forever changed, while they cultivated their own safe haven filled with cherished memories and brighter days. And at the end of it all, the final whispers of shadows faded, leaving behind only echoes of resilience, a testament to love that could conquer even the darkest of fears. Now that you've reached the end of this thrilling tale, don't wait another moment. You need to subscribe now, so you won't miss any future exclusive stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and help amazing tales like this reach more true fans just like you. Your thoughts matter. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense conclusion. What did you think? Was there something deeper lurking in those shadows? And this is the moment to show your support. Instantly share this video with 5 friends who need to hear this story. Don't keep it to yourself, let us spread the adventure together.